Peter Michaels.
Hi, Patrick Bateman.
Friday morning,
This
bright
is
and early.
Weird.
It's nice. I like it.
Do you?
Yeah,
You're a morning guy?
Well, I wouldn't say yes and I wouldn't say no.
This would be the very first time we've ever recorded in the morning.
No
right?
way. We have to have done at 10 a.m. before.
I don't think so.
I think there's one time that we have.
You tell me what it was. I'll gladly.
Core Blonde round 1.
Was that a morning
Actually,
one?
though, I think it was a morning one. I think it was.
No, that was afternoon.
Anyway,
That was what your buddy was saying.
It was probably, no. Was that round 1 of Corb? Wasn't that round 2? Because we had 3 rounds. Yeah, that was round 2.
I'm definitely
Anyways,
the wrong guy to be asking.
There's a reason you don't do morning radio.
There's a very good reason.
Because you're not a morning guy.
When I used to do the 10 to 2 shift, which is, that's pretty sweet.
Yes,
Pocket
10,
right there.
10 a.m. to
10
2
a.m.
p.m.
to 2 p.m.
That was a little.
It was pretty
much.
tight getting in there for a
Much.
10 a.m. start time.
Well, we're here today. It's a lovely morning in Red Deer, Alberta, and just days after this episode releases, October 3rd to be exact, we have our guests.
Yes.
On stage at Bose, which I know you're very excited about. We're both excited, but you saw Whitehorse in January 2020.
It was one of the last
and you swooned.
pre-pandemic
You
shows.
swooned.
It was fantastic. I swooned.
That was the last
quite-
time you saw them, right?
That was the last time I saw
Yeah,
them.
you were very happy about
This
that
is a
show.
band that does make me swoon. Like, I never know that I have feelings
Right.
until I listen to this band.
Wait, their music gets you emotional? Is that what you're saying?
Like, dude,
Are you being
how
serious?
could it not? Yeah, for sure.
Oh,
like, even
interesting.
like that new single, like it just tears at your heartstrings.
Yeah, it's
Leave me as you found me.
So you have delved deep into Whitehorse over the last few years.
Yeah, so my introduction, I think, would have been they had a single Work to Radio, which was, I think, Pink Kimono in about 2016, 2017. And I wasn't super familiar with the band before that.
Right.
And then that kind of got my attention.
Yeah, but they have
And then-
like an insanely big discography.
Well, the whole history, and I don't know how we'd ever possibly get into everything
Yeah,
with
yeah.
this band, between Luke and Melissa's solo stuff and what projects they did before. You could probably spend 6 hours going through everything that these guys have done.
Well, we're not going to do
Can
that.
we do a 6 hour
Not today we can't.
marathon? We're starting early enough.
We are starting. If we'd started at 6 a.m., we would have been able to do that. So I wonder if they're in Winnipeg or Ontario right now.
Tour starts in Winnipeg tomorrow.
Okay, well then
Here in
safe
Red Deer,
to
October
assume
3rd.
they might be just an hour behind us to the east.
So what does a Patrick Bateman morning look like?
I wake up.
What's breakfast?
No breakfast.
What?
Very rarely. Maybe on weekends. Yeah, no breakfast.
It's got to fuel
Coffee.
you through the entire...
Coffee, baby. Straight coffee. In fact, I lately have my partner had said to me months and months ago, you should try a flat white at Starbucks. Do you know what that is?
No.
Me neither, but I've been trying them and god damn they're good.
Yeah?
So that's my breakfast today.
I did. I'm excited. I just had a charcoal latte.
The fuck are you talking about? From where? Tim Hortons?
yeah. Tim's just trying to up their
I
game
mean,
a
it
little
wouldn't
bit.
surprise me.
No, from Doucet, just down the road
Oh,
here.
yes, local coffee.
Local coffee.
Charcoal
Little-
latte?
It's got activated charcoal in it, which
Now,
apparently has some health benefits.
who influenced this decision?
Totally the name. I was just looking at the menu and I'm like, charcoal. Okay.
Really?
Let's give this a try.
Did you
And
look at was your tongue all black after?
Aesthetically, my tongue wasn't, but the coffee is a
Yeah,
different, like kind of
yeah,
a gray color, which has got it.
I've tried
going pretty good.
charcoal toothpaste before.
Yeah, very much.
Yeah.
That's pretty popular.
Yeah.
Charcoal coffee. Let's go grab one after we're done.
Charcoal latte. My God, we can see people.
This is it.
Oh.
And we can hear them too. It's a bonus when we get both.
Hello.
How's it going?
Great. How are you?
Good. So we're sitting in our condo, and about a half an hour ago, all this loud construction started.
Mm-hmm.
It has stopped right now.
Oh, wow.
So we're just like crossing our fingers that it's not going to start again. But
Yeah, just good ambiance.
I'm excited to see just how loud it is.
okay, good.
We did have one of the first interviews we did, remember, with Eric from Black Pistol Fire. He was out on his
Yes,
he was
yeah,
going to do
jackhammers or
somebody
something.
was chopping down a tree with a
Oh, right,
chainsaw. We
yeah.
just started, and then this chainsaw fires up. So you guys are good. You're good.
Okay.
Well, how's it going? I'm Patrick. This is Peter. Melissa,
Hey,
Luke.
guys.
Nice to meet you guys.
Nice to meet you.
Where are you right now? Are you in is it Hamilton or
Winnipeg.
Winnipeg? Did
Yes,
you move to Winnipeg?
yes, we moved to Winnipeg 3 weeks ago.
Wow.
Oh,
I think that's a bit dramatic.
I mean, we're here for 10 months.
Wow, that's
So-
beautiful.
So we still have a place in Toronto.
Did you hear what he said? He said, wow, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
I mean, I like Winnipeg. I think Winnipeg gets, it's a great city.
Winnipeg, it's one great city, right? That's the slogan when you come into town. There's a sign. You know how like Edmonton says City of Champions, and whatever Canadian cities have this need to remind everybody that they have the biggest apple or the biggest turnip or whatever they have.
Yeah.
But outside of Winnipeg, it says one great city, which is also the title of that John K. Sampson song.
I Hate Winnipeg.
It's called One Great City.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the.
But my mom got sick. And so we wanted to relocate here for a year so we could be closer to my mom. She's been sick for a long time. Unfortunately, she actually passed away 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, that sucks, man.
Yeah, thank you. But we're going to stay because she left us a complete disaster of an estate to deal with. And also there's still a lot of like residual energy from her. And I don't mean that in a sort of quasi-spiritual way. I just mean like there's family and there's stuff and her community and stuff. So there's a lot for us to invest in and spend time around, and primarily for all of us, but like our son Jimmy gets to he didn't have much time with her during the pandemic.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway.
And she made a big impact. Not to get too much into it if you don't want to, but she had a big impact in that city, right?
Huge. Absolutely. I mean, to give you a couple examples. So, I mean, she was a public health nurse and an outreach nurse and an AIDS researcher, and she did all kinds of like really crazy renegade kind of street level research and stuff, which is fantastic. But I went to an antique store the other day to get a gift for a friend who just turned 40. And the antique dealer found out that my mother had died and then ended up giving us this really amazing gift without knowing who she was. And then I told my brothers and sisters, hey, this guy gave us this really beautiful thing. And they went, oh yeah, they were friends. So I had to go back in and say, hey, and show him a photo. Did you know this woman? And he's like, yeah, I know her. And I said, well, she's my mother. She passed. And he burst into tears.
Oh.
And then I went to the bank yesterday to try and address some of the lingering issues with my mom's bank account. And the teller was looking down at the form and said, oh, Ormond, wait, is that Margaret Ormond? And I said, yeah, that's my mother's name. And she said, you mean she just passed away? And I said, yeah. And the bank teller burst into tears.
Wow.
Yeah, she was well loved.
Yeah. Anyway,
especially to have that impact in a bigger city, right? Like I come from a really small town. You expect that in a small town, but to have that in a big city, you can tell how much she meant to it.
How do you deal with that, Luke, when these people are grieving in front of you who, as a matter of weeks ago was in the ultimate state of grieving?
Yeah. I mean, it's I don't know. I don't know if you've ever lost anybody. This is my first go at actually losing somebody that I was really close to. And for me, it's amazing. Like 95% of the time I feel like, oh, this is easy. This is no problem. And then little things will trigger this sort of explosion of emotion. But at the same time, it's been overwhelming the way that community in Winnipeg has rallied around our family and around the legacy of my mom's legacy. So a lot of the times it's an honor. Like it's this incredible sense of pride and she was my mom. So I moved away 30 years ago. So I didn't necessarily have a bird's eye view of the impact she had on the community, but I'm seeing it, bank tellers and antique dealers and just random strangers on the street. So, it's sad. And I'm inclined to want to make jokes, but that'd be inappropriate. People are really moved, and it's really beautiful, and it's humbling.
That's incredible. And to have the opportunity to like situate yourself there for an extended period of time to just further embrace that and soak it up is not something I think most people get a chance to do. We both lost parents in the last few years, so we know what it's like.
Definitely know what it's like. Yep.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, I didn't know what it's like. I mean, I guess like thank God we don't have jobs.
And I'm curious, how like has music played a role in kind of helping you heal and kind of deal with feelings at all?
Well, I mean, I haven't written those songs yet, and I don't know if I will. But my mom was really liked the fact that there was so much artistic energy around the family. We're obviously musicians, and my brother JD is an artist and songwriter, and my sister Sarah is a dancer, and there's a lot of art in the family. And my mom always liked that. She had 7 kids, so
wow.
She didn't. Yeah, and like she had 7 kids in the span of like 2 years. So there wasn't a lot of. She didn't have the chance to go off and be the Billie Holiday that she might have otherwise been, because she was actually the talent in the family. But we celebrated her life with a lot of music, like in the days leading up to her passing. And then then there was a celebration of life that was all about music. And that was, she enjoyed that about the family.
Yeah. Wow. What a few months you've had. And now you're less than 24 hours away from playing a show.
Yep.
Starting the big old tour, Western Canada.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Wow.
And starting kind of at home in Winnipeg, does it feel like a home show?
Well, we're kind of on the fence as to how much we milk that angle.
Yeah.
Because there's always the instinct to want to pander to the hometown crowd. Like I'm gonna, like, I was thinking maybe I'd spray paint myself gold, as the golden boy, and then like we're gonna suspend a bison carcass on the back wall.
We do claim a lot of hometowns. We have to admit, because we've moved around a lot, and we've planted our roots in a lot of places. But I think Winnipeg definitely qualifies, and because we have so much family here, it's always a family event at the shows, and so it does bring that kind of, like, I don't want to say nervous energy. It's an excitement. But yeah, Winnipeg always feels like one of those hometown shows.
And certain, Tara Lightfoot or the Arkells or like these Hamilton bands, like they wave the Hamilton flag hard.
Yeah.
Or Winnipeg bands. I mentioned John Sampson, but like Canadians love an underdog story. And like Hamilton and Winnipeg are underdog towns.
Yeah, big time.
And we love that about
And we have a lot of songs about both of those towns.
Yeah, we do.
About Winnipeg and Hamilton.
Because you can really wave that underdog flag when you're from a town that's taking it on the chin. You can't really wave your Toronto pride. You can't really, unless you're Gord Downey or even that was taking certain liberties that only he could take. Nobody waves their Vancouver pride, from their indie rock pulpit.
Yeah.
It's not cool.
Stop making fun of Toronto. Here's a rally song for them. Yeah.
Yeah. And of course, I remember talking to Max from the Arkells one time, and he's like, "We're not really from Hamilton, man. It's just good politics."
Oh God, we're gonna have to. This interview is over.
we got our clip. Thank you. Good night.
I mean, it's kind of the same with Sloan. Like, those guys have all lived in the West End of Toronto for 30 years, and they're still a Halifax band, right?
Yeah. But you guys are all over the place.
We are. We started Whitehorse when we lived in Hamilton.
Okay.
We're kind of forever a Hamilton band. People still introduce us as a Hamilton band. And who knows, we might end up back in Hamilton at some point. We're definitely like a moving target. We like to explore, and but we have been in Toronto for the last decade.
Okay. It's funny because we make this joke all the time on this podcast, but and honestly, after this, it's probably close to 50% of our guests are from Winnipeg.
We've got to stop at some point.
But the Winnipeg music scene is and I know it's always been a good thing, but especially in the last couple of years, it seems like there's been a major boom of sorts. There's an insane stable of talent.
This will be, I think you guys will be our 73rd episode, and it's not an exaggeration to say at least 20 of those have been Winnipeg artists, and a varying of like current bands that have been around for a while. Crash Test Dummies we just had on, and Brad's got his roots in Winnipeg.
Yeah. I mean, we can speculate as to why that is, obviously, and there's also, I think that for romantic reasons, we probably exaggerate these things. I mean, again, underdog towns tend to want to tell you how great everything is about their town, and they're not wrong. They're probably not wrong about a lot of those things. But Winnipeg is so what's unique. Okay, it's cold. That's boring. Let's not talk about that. But it's also isolated. Like the three closest cities to Winnipeg are Thunder Bay, Minneapolis, St. Paul, and Regina. And each one is at least 8 hours away.
Yeah.
7-8 hours away. That makes it one of the most isolated big cities in the world. Like, there's probably a couple in Mongolia and in Siberia, maybe, like, but really, like, it's unusual that way. I know point. That with the social media internet age, it matters less and less, but the isolation of the city, which restricts the kind of outside influence to some degree, has to play some kind of a role. I mean, the economy, the population has remained relatively stagnant for the last 25 years at about 750,000 people. There's never been a whole lot of upwardly mobile, there's not a booming tech sector. So, people can live here, you can get an apartment for $600 or $1,000 a month. Nice apartment, and then you can do 1 or 2 bartending or barista gigs a week, and you can pay for your rehearsal space, and you can be an artist like actually 6 days a week, instead of like our daughter Chloe, who's lives in Toronto. She's 26. She's Melissa's stepdaughter. She works sometimes 5 or 6 days a week, like as a bartender at really nice restaurants, and she works at a place called Paris and another like bougie cocktail bar. She works her ass off because that's how you survive.
It's a hustle there, you have to.
Yeah. Whereas in Winnipeg, you don't necessarily have to hustle that hard just to pay your rent and your rehearsal space and to afford yourself the opportunity to be a band. Like in Winnipeg, you can be an artist like almost all the time. So that makes a big difference. Like the skill level that the average musician has when you walk into the times change in Winnipeg, it's mind blowing. Like, how are there actually 15 guitar players in this room right now? That who I'd be honored to change their strings. Like, how is that the case? So I don't know.
Well, we should probably be in touch with like Tourism Manitoba or something, and just.
I've been waiting. I hashtag them on every single one, and we get nothing. So.
Oh man. Well, that's for unfortunate reasons. It sounds like you have a very, very good reason to be in Winnipeg, and I look forward to your ability to embrace the city on a new level. After so many years gone, that's pretty exciting.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I've been coming a lot for the last few years because my mom's been sick, like sometimes every month for a week, and I like it here. My brother and I are super close, and I like the community. It's a bit of a bigger move for Melissa because she's not as connected, but still.
But I'm embracing it. I've embraced it. I mean, I have this familiar relationship with most cities in Canada just from touring.
Yeah.
And especially Winnipeg because we have family here. So, we've spent Christmases here. We come, if we come play the Winnipeg Folk Fest, we'll stay for a week and hang out with family. So, the last 20 years of my life, I've had a lot of experiences here. So it wasn't a huge leap. It's not home, but it is a home of sorts. And we're enjoying it so far. We have this sweet little pad, and our son Jimmy is enrolled at the school down the street, and he's loving it. And we're finding all the little spots that we love, the little cafes and bars and restaurants, and the used bookstore just up the street here. So yeah, it's good. And I love getting to know a city. That's kind of, my first passion is music, but my second passion is travel and touring and being in new places and getting to know new places and being out of my comfort zone. So yeah, I'm game.
When you're going into a city to do that, do you have a routine? Do you look things up ahead of time before going in, or is it just straight out go adventure and see what you find?
I mean, I think the way that I connect with a new place is through food.
Yes.
And maybe Luke, like to speak for you, maybe running, like going out, going for a run. And I run as well. So I'll that's an experience I'll have in a new place too. But I really love finding where the good food is. And
I think you actually spend time resourcing, sourcing out things like that, where we're going to eat, and which is great because I'll forget until I'm hypoglycemic, and then I'll just eat a whole bag of turnips or whatever I have to do to survive. But yeah, I'll actually I like geographies. I like to read maps just to understand where things are, and I like to run, so I'll look at I'll do a little bit of that work, and she'll figure out the good eats, and then we're good.
Did we not have somebody had said they had the best sushi in Winnipeg, right? Prairie sushi.
I think it was John Angus McDonald from the Trues, maybe.
Right,
yeah.
Have you had sushi?
I mean, there's a great place close to our apartment that we've tried. That's wonderful, but Wasabi might be the place.
I feel like people get pretty excited about Wasabi.
Okay.
There's a restaurant called Wasabi.
That's the hype spot.
Okay.
It's pretty hype, and it's good. And it's like a fusion thing. It's not trad. It's amazing. It's good. I can't. I mean, it just seems too ridiculous to try and claim that Winnipeg has the best sushi. I just
absolutely. Yeah.
I just maybe, but
that's why we did a double take when it came up. I'm like,
I was a little surprised. I was a little surprised. Now, so do you take that that sourcing of good eats on tour with you, or is there just no time to worry about that stuff?
I mean, it depends on the tour. It depends on the day.
Mm-hmm. Well, this tour, for example, do you have places that you plan on eating or venturing to?
Yeah, absolutely. Nothing really specific in mind. I mean, talking about sushi, like that will be my number one priority when we arrive in Vancouver.
Yeah.
What about Cafe Mosaic in Edmonton?
Yeah, exactly.
I know it changed hands, but it's like a good vegan brunch.
It's just like a little casual spot, like, you know.
Yeah.
It's a great place to go.
And we're not vegans per se, but when you're on the road, you tend to eat like shit so much that when you have the opportunity to eat well, just for health,
exactly.
It. So like I'll be a vegetarian on the road if the opportunity comes up and it's really good. So that place is great.
Yeah. What was that little Indian late night place in Saskatoon?
It was her name.
Oh,
that sounds amazing.
I always forget, and it's open 24 hours. Oh my God. She always seems to be there. Like she's always and so like, hello, welcome. Yeah. You know what? It's terrible. You can get like this amazing Indian food at like 4 a.m.
But we can't tell you who it is because we can't remember.
I know. I always forget, but it's easy to find. Like if you just Google Indian food and.
Late night Indian food, Saskatoon.
Yeah. I don't know. There are little spots like that, like little unassuming spots. And then of course, like every once in a while we'll splurge and go to some, fancy like farm to table place, so. As
if food starts anywhere but a farm. It ends up anywhere.
Just depends on what kind of farm it is.
Yeah.
Well, that's exciting. You guys could start your own like side Instagram account just detailing the good eats on tour.
I actually did have a pro gluten Instagram page for a while.
What do you mean pro gluten? Just like here's where you can get
enough of those.
It was just photographs of like delicious food that contains gluten. And I would get like on the road, we'd find some like gourmet donut place and take a photo and post that, or like deep dish pizza in Chicago, or.
Wow, really alienating the gluten-free fan base of the band.
It kind of went south because it was called gluten-free, but then I started getting all these gluten-free followers, and then I felt bad.
Yeah.
So it kind of fizzled out.
Gluten-free.
It's still up there. You can go
Brilliant. Yeah. So we'll talk more about coming to Red Deer soon, but you guys announced a new record this week, right? Was that this week?
Yeah.
Last week. Your 6th or 7th record in the last 2 years, something like that.
Yes.
Number 4.
Actually, it's
number 3.
It's number 3, and then there's a secret thing that we're not supposed to talk about. It's coming out maybe another time. Oh. But this is 3. Yes, 3.
Yeah.
And
called "I'm Not Crying, You're Crying."
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's a country record of sorts. We find ourselves saying that, and I always have to correct us that by today's definition of country, it's not a country record at all, because if I turn on country radio, I don't hear anything that sounds even remotely like what we're making. So it's like retro, mid-70s inspired Americana country. It's like Emmylou Harris and Dolly Parton and Linda Ronstadt and Graham Parsons and outlaw country, like whether it's Willie or Chris Christopherson or Waylon Jennings, like all inspired. The John Prine died a year ago, April, and that kind of kick-started this feeling that we had.
2 years ago.
Was it 2 years ago? Okay, yeah.
At least.
And we just wrote a whole pile of songs kind of in that. I mean, I was pacing around the island in our kitchen in Toronto, like with a bottle of wine in one hand and a 0017 in the other, just like figuring out like, what do I do with my brain and my life during a pandemic? And then he died, and it sort of a little floodgate of creativity opened, and we found ourselves writing all these country songs that we didn't know that was the plan. It wasn't a plan we had. It just happened.
Yeah. I think we were planning on just writing a few, and doing just kind of like a fun little EP or side project, and then we just kept writing songs. I mean, especially Luke was especially prolific during that time, and just this like flood of songs came out, and they were great songs. And then I was like, okay, I got to start writing too. So I picked up my guitar and got into that 70s country headspace, and which was a really fun place to write from stylistically. I think like as soon as you like embody that style of music, you can really take it to places where you really maybe wouldn't go in pop music or indie rock. Or
I mean, you can. Some people, maybe we can. Not everybody can. That's the thing. Like, there's this authenticity thing that you have to be concerned about, because the last thing you want to do is embark on some kind of anthropological exploit where you're just trying to like reproduce a thing that has no context today. It's like, why would you bother? And I don't think that we've done that, but it, you know, I've heard there was, let me think, in the 80s when I was living in Winnipeg, there was a lot of blues, and that was sort of like most roots music was kind of blues. There was a lot of like actual like blues bands, like mostly like middle-aged white dudes trying to sound like Muddy Waters, which is fine. But you know, that has gone away, and now the roots music that seems to be most prevalent is some kind of Americana thing, you know, whether that's singer-songwriter or country inspired, I don't know. But you know, it's easy to like put on the hat and sing with a twang and fake a couple of licks, and it's a bit glib and insincere and whatever. It's kind of boring. And you know, we're running that risk. We're aware of that risk. But you know, Melissa said I was really prolific, and it's true, I was, but our pattern tends to be, in order to come up with 10 songs for a record, I write 25 and I get 5 good ones. Yeah. And then Melissa writes 5 good ones.
Flat out.
It's fucking annoying, to be honest. It's pretty annoying. But I spend, you know, I'm 3 months working my ass off to write all these songs.
Yeah, but you get the flow going. I just like obsess over one song and like bang my head against the wall and change it and rework it. And, you know, I think I'm just a lot more like meticulous in my process.
Yeah.
Working out an idea and trying to like get it to a place I want it to be. Whereas you just kind of like spitball. And then when something sticks, awesome.
Right. Yeah, I guess.
And you guys, that's been the process for a number of years, or is that mainly like for this previous record? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we did put out a record at the beginning of the pandemic called Modern Love. And that was the first time we ever, I mean, we have co-written for sure. Like from the very beginning, we've co-written, but it's been more of like either it's his song or it's my song, and then we kind of like rework it together. And for Modern Love, it was the first time we ever like sat down and from scratch we wrote the songs together, for the most part, anyways. Yeah. And that was kind of like we made a conscious decision to do that. And it was great. And so it's funny that like the next 2 records, we just kind of went back to our normal, you know, routine of writing separately. I mean, for me, writing is a very private, like solitary process. Right. I don't love co-writing. Co-writing with Luke is great because there's this like ultimate comfort level and trust that we have. But, you know, I've done like co-writing sessions with people where, you know, I'm either trying to help them write a song or they're trying to help me write a song. And it's just, I just can't get there.
In order to like, we've done writing sessions with pro writers where we'll spend 3.5 hours just having a therapy session. And then the last 15 minutes of our scheduled time, we write a song. And I think that's kind of what you have to do, because you have to sort of be able to take your proverbial pants off in front of the person you're writing with in order to be creative and get to something. Otherwise you just write generic garbage that nobody needs to hear. Yeah. And which of course the world is littered with. So obviously there's a market for that. But, you know, we can take our pants off in front of each other.
Literally.
You know? Yeah. You have a unique chemistry.
Yeah, and vulnerability and a certain like facility with language. Like we can finish each other's sentences, as annoying as that is, but we can, and that's pretty useful when you're trying to write music. It's like, oh, I know what you're thinking.
Yeah,
that's an amazing perspective. I've never thought about that before. Relating, finishing, being so close, so personal with each other.
Right. Okay.
No. Well, I mean, who knows? Maybe in a moment of writer's block, maybe that's the best option. But yeah, being so close and personal that you can finish each other's sentences. Might work best in a songwriting format.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's why it's hard not to think about some really grandiose examples. Like, that I think there's a reason why John Lennon and Paul McCartney hated each other at the end. It's like, you can't expose that much of yourself to somebody in such a concentrated period of time. You can, we do, but there's other.
You're saying we're going to hate each other?
No, I'm saying at the end of the day, at least we sleep together. It's like, okay, there.
It's like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know if Paul and John ever slept together.
I think it's just rumors.
They probably shared a bed a few times. You got to assume.
There's a lot of rumors.
In Hamburg when they were teenagers.
Yeah.
What goes on in Hamburg stays in Hamburg.
So you guys have been together for, is it 16 years you just celebrated, I think I saw?
16-year wedding anniversary. We've been together for almost 20 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And if I remember correctly, the last time you guys were in Red Deer was in January of 2020, so just before the pandemic. And it was just kind of a solo acoustic kind of thing that you guys were doing. And I'm trying to remember the story. So if you've told this a billion times, forgive me and just indulge me. But you guys, did you meet on a cruise ship? Is that where it all started?
No, we actually met. Luke produced my second solo record. And so I was aware of him as a musician and as a producer. And so I approached him and we started chatting and talking about working on the record. And, within like 3 days of being in the studio, we were all over each other. It's very unprofessional.
Yeah, we like to joke that our relationship remained strictly professional for weeks.
days, really. Yeah. And then the cruise that you're thinking of, because we do have a song called The Boat Song, Mismatched Eyes, the boat song, that we wrote. That was actually the birth of Whitehorse. So we had already been together. I think we were definitely married by that point. But we still had solo careers. We were putting out records under our own names. And then we were invited to play the Cayamo cruise as Luke Doucet and Melissa McClelland. But we did all of those shows together, like playing for each other. And I think we got a little stir crazy on that. That was our first time on a cruise ship. And I think, we felt a little claustrophobic. Luke was doing like a sober month. So he was like particularly edgy.
On a cruise.
I know. And so
nowhere to run.
It just I think it culminated into some kind of argument. We got into some kind of argument and, it was kind of this like dramatic night of like tears and arguing. And then we just kind of all right, you picked up the guitar, and this was kind of, as we were making up, and he picked up the guitar and he said, I've been working on this song for you. And it's a beautiful song. He's playing Boat Song. And he's like, let's make it a duet. Let's work on it. So we sat there and, worked on the lyrics and kind of traded off verses. And then we were like, let's play this tomorrow during his set. And we did. And that was the first time we played it. And then I think that was kind of like the inspiration for starting Whitehorse. I think we put out our first record maybe a year after that or something.
It's a pretty good origin story.
It's a great origin story.
Yeah.
And then because that song then didn't end up until the second album, right? So was there a reason? Is there a reason why it didn't make that first album? So we were living in Hamilton and we recorded at Catherine North Studios, which is a beautiful church. And we also recorded at Sarah McLachlan's studio in Vancouver. So we did a batch of songs there and a batch of songs in Hamilton. And at that point, I don't think we knew exactly what we were doing.
Hell yeah.
There it is. Great timing.
I guess their lunch break is over. How horrible is that?
That's fine. That's fine.
Oh.
Okay. It's probably going to stop and start.
We'll let you know. We'll let you know. Go ahead, though.
Okay.
It just didn't fit the record.
Well, we did this whole batch of songs. And I think we were really experimenting and figuring out who we were as a band and what we were doing. And we ended up with enough songs for 2 records. So we split them up and we put the first record out and the second record out, but all of those songs were recorded at the same time. So it's, you know, it's funny. I've heard people have said to me like, oh, you can really hear the progression. And it's like, actually, you know, all of those songs were in the same session.
Wow.
So it's interesting how like your perception of the timeline and taking in the music and being introduced to a band and then the follow-up, like there really is context plays a lot into your listening experience.
Mm-hmm.
I really think so. Yeah. But that song ended up on the second record.
And the second record, so first one was 2011, is that it?
That sounds right.
Yeah, something like that. Wow. And you guys have just nonstop.
Yeah, it's possible we've made too many records.
I have to. So the new record, I'm Not Crying, You're Crying, January 13th. Probably one of the first records of the new year that I'm really excited about. I can't really think of too much that's been announced yet, so I'm looking forward to that. Sanity, Tennessee. I have to ask about that. What is what?
There is no such place, by the way.
There isn't. Yeah. But did you know that there's a hardcore band called Sanity, Tennessee?
What?
Yes, I found them on Instagram yesterday.
I was trying to. We have a little sheet where we kind of share what we're going to talk about, and I saw the Sanity, Tennessee, so I went and listened to it. And I'm like, okay, Whitehorse's sound has kind of went through a lot of areas, but I don't think this is one of them.
Do you know there's also a hardcore band from Australia who dubbed themselves the world's loudest band? I think they called themselves.
Yeah, and they were called Whitehorse.
Oh wow! Did you guys have words?
No, I think we might have exchanged some ideas like, hey, it looks like we share a name. And it's like, okay, well.
Collab. Yeah, no, I was looking for where Sanity might be in Tennessee, realized that it's not a real place and that maybe you guys just love this super small hardcore band.
Oh my God. So that's the name of the band?
Sanity TN. Yeah.
That is amazing.
There you go. Collab. Shout out. Okay, so it is a song about a non-existent place, maybe somewhere in your head.
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, that song was, inspired by lockdown, and I kind of created this character, just imagining, this kind of like aging woman living alone, drinking a martini for breakfast and pacing the halls and spying on the neighbors and.
So me only one.
Pretty much. And originally when I wrote the chorus, it just ended at the word sanity. It's a long way back to sanity. And when Luke listened to it for the first time, he's like, why don't you make it a place or something?
Great
it's like,
idea.
I don't know, Tennessee.
Well,
I'm like, yeah.
And then I was like, maybe Ohio's cooler. And she's like, we're not doing Ohio. I'm like, okay, fine, Tennessee.
Well, it worked out. And now you have a potential to do a collaboration with a small hardcore band.
We need to hear that.
It's not a bad idea. It's not a terrible idea.
Have you screamed before, either of you in a band?
I have been coached by producers to try and scream, and it's like me screaming is like Kermit the Frog screaming. It's not sexy.
Okay, can you please do that in Red Deer? We need to see this.
We might need an example. Yeah.
Oh, that's really good.
So, while maybe hardcore screamo metal isn't the avenue for you guys like the sound has changed up, especially over these last few albums. The thing I love about you guys is no two Whitehorses albums sound the same. Almost no two Whitehorse songs sound the same. So, what are some of the pros and cons about always kind of evolving and doing something a little different?
The pros are we don't get bored. The cons are everything else. I think we've been told by marketers and our people at our label, it's just like, we don't know what do we do with you because you're constantly a moving target. I'm like, yeah, shit, sorry. I don't know.
But I think that is our identity, or for lack of a better term, our brand. I think, the fact that we do kind of explore genres and play around with sounds, at the end of the day, it's still our two voices. It's still our style of writing. And it's still the sound of his guitar. We just kind of like package it differently and play around with it. But yeah, it has posed some challenges, I'm sure. And like, I don't know if we've alienated fans along the way, if they come to expect this and then we give them that, and then, you know, just constantly changing course.
I think when we think about, when I think about the artists that have been most impactful to me, and maybe this is true of us both, or maybe it's just my perspective, you know, like Neil Young or Tom Petty or even John Lennon or, you know, like even like people who are not huge influences on me personally, but I've always kind of related to them and thought they were cool, like Sheryl Crow or Chrissy Hynde. Like there's country and there's folk and there's rock and roll and there's like Tom Petty had like full on like new wave moments. So did Neil Young. Mm-hmm. You know, Neil Young's been simultaneously the most beautiful, delicate, sort of hippie folky, and then with the most aggressive, devastating heavy guitar tone, right? Yeah. It's just like, who is this guy? And you know, country records and folk and you know, all that. And yet it's never a problem. Now, granted, we're not Neil Young, we're not anybody. We don't. Maybe it's an incredible privilege to be an artist who is defined by the name of the artist. Like people's like, well, it's Neil Young. Nobody's like, oh yeah, it's folk music. It's like, well, not if you listen to Ragged Glory, it's not.
Yeah.
You know, or and we could say that about so many other artists. And it occasionally an artist will come along where they somehow like grant themselves, or their audience loves them so much they grant them the freedom to like dance all over the place. Like Lucinda Williams is not a bad example of that too. Mm-hmm. And it's a privilege that we might have claimed for ourselves. I don't know if we're entitled to it. I don't know if our fans are necessarily following us, or if the music world is, but that's for better or for worse. We sort of pinned our little blue ribbon on that idea.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I mean, it seems to be working.
I love it. Keep it.
This guy was so stoked about your show back in January 2020. I think that was the first time you saw them, right?
That was my first experience.
I've rarely seen him so excited.
Oh. It was a great show. It was just, well, I said to Patrick, like, I never really realized that I have feelings until I'm listening to your guys' stuff. It brings it all out, and
it's okay, you don't.
I don't. Okay, good.
You have to protect on people. It's a mirage. Don't let it bring you down.
Good. The reputation can stand.
Yeah, you're good.
And then I did that cover of Fade Into You that you guys do is like that was that on the last record or that 2020 drop?
Yes, it was on Strike Me Down, which was the last
2021,
record.
Right? Yeah. Is that something that you guys have been playing around with for a long time? Gravitated to for a while, or?
The guitar player in the band died when we were in the studio, and we literally 10 minutes later thought, let's try to record it.
Holy shit.
We done. We never played it. I didn't even know here's a weird confession. I didn't even know the song.
What?
No. Remember you guys were like, oh, it's that great song. I'm like, what is it again? And I had to listen to it 3 times. I'm like, I didn't know Mazzy Star. I didn't know the song.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's a great song. I really appreciate what you guys did with it. It's fantastic.
I mean, I had a cassette tape in high school. This is how old I am, but it was blank. Someone had given it to me, and it was Mazzy Star, but for the longest time, like I listened to it a million times and didn't know who it was.
Yeah.
And then finally figured out it was Mazzy Star. But when I listen to Hope Sandoval's voice, that's what I think of. But yeah, it was a very like spontaneous decision to do that song. And that might have been the last thing we recorded before the initial lockdown. We were working with Gus Van Gogh.
Right.
I don't even think we had planned to put it on the record. We released it as a single, and then we realized it fit so well on that record, and it just it actually added something necessary to that record. So we decided to put it on.
Somebody else's songwriting.
Yeah.
Hey, you didn't.
I know what this record needs.
Somebody else's songwriting.
At least you made it yours. That's all that matters at the end of the day, isn't it?
Yes.
I love that.
What's in these bottles in front of us? What's going on there?
Just air.
But what would have been in them once upon a time?
Beer.
There would have been some beer in there.
Quite a bit of delicious beer. This is our friends at Sawback Brewing, and then this is one of the many designs from Bose Barn Stage.
You guys will probably get to try some of Sawback stuff when you're here if you're beer drinkers. They have it's called gig beer. So it's a wicked. So for every show at Bose, there's a gig beer that everybody can have along with it.
Yeah,
Sawback does.
Oh, I love it. Great.
Yeah, it's going to be a good time when you join us here in Red Deer. It's gonna be a lot of fun.
We're very excited.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
So the special secret that of this tour is that we're picking up pedal steel players, regional pedal steel players along the way, because we're traveling as a trio. So it's Melissa and I. Melissa's on bass, I'm on guitar, and then Johnny O is our drummer. So it's a trio. And then for about half the shows, about half the actual concert, half the cities we're playing, which includes Red Deer, we have a pedal steel player joining us.
Do we have a pedal steel player for Red Deer?
I'm trying to think. Do you know who?
Well, I have one name in mind.
Ryan's our producer. Ryan also is the sound tech at Bose. So, what?
Do you mind revealing who's joining you?
Do you want to reveal? Do you know it, Ryan? No, Ryan doesn't. Ryan doesn't know.
I don't know. It's not Ryan. No, it's. I do know who it is, but I don't know if it's been 100% confirmed yet.
Okay.
But there will be somebody. We've sort of that much. We're fairly confident.
Well, I like the guessing game here. We can kind of.
Yeah.
You have an idea?
Well, I mean, we had a pretty amazing Calgary-based steel player here a few months ago, right?
Calgary-based.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're saying Red Deer-based?
No.
Oh,
okay. It will be Calgary-based. Okay.
We'll figure it out. Okay. We'll see in a matter of nights. Is that so you guys, like, I find your marketing is very impressive, whether it's the consistency of your marketing or even just the visual aspect. Who's in charge? Anyone in particular?
Alberta. Let's get
Lyle Bell.
Lyle Bell from Shout Out / The Wet Secrets / Slow Fresh Oil.
Whitey Houston.
Right.
So Edmonton. But this goes back the roots go back even deeper. So Shauna DeCartier is the CEO and president of Six Shooter Records. Mm-hmm. She's from Edmonton. So she moved to Toronto 20 years ago. She and I have been working together for 23 years. Wow. Melissa has joined the fray, 15 years ago. Yeah. And so our whole record company management life, it revolves around Six Shooter Records, which is Shauna DeCartier from Edmonton.
Yeah. So
she hired, we've known Lyle forever from all his bands. Like Edmonton's always a fun stop, and because we have so many pals. And Lyle's just he's an amazing singer songwriter, but he did all the graphic. He was the head of the art department for The View. Was that the weekly in Edmonton for a long time? Was it The View Weekly?
Maybe.
I believe, yeah, VU.
Oh, yeah.
You're talking like is that a magazine, newspaper?
Yeah. I'm pretty sure that was The View.
Yeah, so he was the guy for years, did all their graphic work. Anyway, he does all our album designs, all our posters. He takes all our photographs, does our videos, everything. And
with help, we have Caitlin Beach, who helps a lot with some of the, styling and the dreaming up some of the ideas. And then of course, Six Shooter, it's a great team of people that enable all of this to happen. Mm-hmm. And, we do these fun things like, we'll go to Vegas to do a photo shoot
which is crazy and indulgent, because it's not like we don't have the money I'm like, this is stupid. We can't afford to do this while we're doing this. And Shauna's philosophy is it's really important to make things look good and to have fun while you're doing it. And so we're not going to argue. It's like, okay, let's go to Vegas for 3 days and just do that. It's, so they invest a lot into those kinds of things. And if me personally, like, I'm the worst at that. Like I shouldn't be anywhere near the planning session for things creative other than the songwriting process or production, because I don't have any ideas. You do. You have lots of ideas. But thankfully there's lots of other people around who are like, wait a minute, this is important. Let's spend some time. Yeah, it's not my forte.
Yeah. Well, at least you can admit it.
Yeah.
Because Lyle Bell's doing a pretty good job.
We're getting a lot of confessions out of Luke in this show here.
Yeah. Actually, before, like, totally just a personal question, but have you worked with Rob Lamoth before?
I have, yeah.
Yes, you have, right. I saw his name pop up. He was my mentor at band camp like 20 years ago. Yeah. He was a sweet dude. Oh,
that's incredible. Yeah, I love Rob. When I first started performing when I was 15, 16, 17 years old, I grew up in Burlington, which is between Toronto and Hamilton. Mm-hmm. And my parents would drive me every Monday night to the open mic night at the old Casbah, which was, the Casbah is a well-known venue in Hamilton. But it was, at that time, it was just like a little restaurant with the stage. Anyways, they did an open mic night every Monday, and Rob had just moved here from California,
right,
to be with his kids, and he gave up his amazing music career there to chase his kids here to Hamilton. But legally, he wasn't allowed to play shows or, make money.
Right.
So he kind of took over this open mic night and turned it into this like pretty impressive night of music. So I would go there and play my 3 new songs every Monday. And I got to know him there, and I got to know some other people who I'm still close with, still friends with. And eventually, when I was like 19, 20, I did my first solo record with Rob at his house.
Sweet.
He produced it. And so we became really close, and we've kind of, drifted apart, social media, thank God for social media, because I get all the updates. But yeah, he's a dear person in my life.
And sorry, did you go to high school in Burlington?
Yes.
Whereabouts, if I might ask?
Nelson.
Oh, Nelson. My brother's a Nelson grad. Yes.
Oh, really?
Yeah, my mom and my brother live there now. I grew up in Oakville.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So yeah, very, very close. Interesting. Funny. Well, yeah, Rob Lamoth seemed like a great dude at rock camp.
That's awesome. I love that. Oh my God. So cute.
P, you got anything else?
Before we just a couple of quick things. I did, as I was kind of going through research for this, you brought up Kuly a little earlier. Her song is fan-freaking-tastic, Satan Loves You. Maybe just talk a little bit about Kuly and her musical journey.
Yeah. Try as I may, I can't talk her out of music. She's 26 and she's living in Toronto, and she's working really hard, and she's super committed, and she's just like doggedly pursuing this and writing a million songs and trying to play bass in people's bands and playing piano and playing guitar. And she just finished a recording with Gus Van Gogh, who's done records with us, a session with Gus and with Zeus, this band from Toronto who are super. I don't know if you guys are familiar with them. No. But they're like kind of like post Beatles, like Smarty Pants, kind of like Sloan disciples, maybe, like, I don't know, in that like slightly too cool for school, but clever and really super musical. And she's a gigantic fan of their band, and I mean, so am I. They're really great. And so she kind of recruited them to be the band, and then they hung out with Gus for a week, and she called me like on the brink of tears, just saying like, I can't believe the experience I just had. So she's and
even Gus sent a text to Luke just saying it was an incredibly inspiring session, and he's a seasoned producer.
He's been around.
He was just like, it was incredible. She was so awesome, just like brought her A game. And so it's pretty exciting to watch, her burgeoning career, and it's happening.
How do you guys handle it as parents? Because obviously you've got a ton of experience and wealth of knowledge that you can deliver to her, but she's also got to learn some stuff on her own. So how are you handling that aspect of it?
She doesn't, I mean, she wants as little to do with us as possible. Like she doesn't want to open for us. She doesn't want to come and work with us. She wants nothing to do with being perceived as floating on our coattails. So so I give her guitars, and we give her guitars, and when we can, and we give her as much support and advice and as we can, and we have a lot of experience and maybe wisdom or to impart. Yeah. And then other than that, she does her thing.
And she was around it a lot. I met Chloe when she was 7, and she would join us on the road sometimes. She did a lot of tours with us growing up. And then even when she was, 18, she came on the road as our road nanny. And took care of her brother, who was, 5 months old at that point. And so she doesn't have this kind of like romantic notion around touring that I think a lot of us do. Mm-hmm. Like I grew up in the suburbs. I wasn't from like a musical family. I had no association to it whatsoever. So, the idea of like making music and being in the studio and going on the road and playing shows, like that was just this like mind-blowing idea. And I think, she doesn't have that. She's very practical about it. And that's probably a much healthier place to start from.
Yeah.
Because she knows the reality, and she knows it's hard. But she knows it's rewarding in ways as well.
Well, even more reason for you guys to step back in this case, because you've already provided so much experience over the last 20 years. So makes sense. Shauna
at Six Shooter, we were talking about how close Chloe should, as if it's up to us, should be to our careers or to our infrastructure. And Shauna, Shauna said to me, Chloe, you're going to be a liability and an asset to Chloe no matter what happens.
Yeah.
And I thought it was really wise, and I really appreciated that perspective. But just a quick anecdote about Chloe. So when she was 12, we were on the road with Sarah McClelland doing this sort of, was it Lilith Fair reboot?
Mm-hmm.
And she was 12 or 13, something like that. And at the end of the night, every night, the encore would be whoever was the guest on the tour, like the featured guest. So it'd be Sarah, it'd be us, and then the featured guest would be whoever it was. And this one night, it was Emmylou Harris, and we did a few nights, and we actually got to rehearse with Emmylou and sing with her, and it was mind blowing. But Chloe wasn't paying any attention. She didn't know what was going on. And she was standing by the side of the stage watching the encore. And Sarah looked over to the side of the stage and motioned to Chloe, like, come on out. And so Chloe, being a little kid, she bounds out on the stage like a baby giraffe. And she's singing along. And we're doing Because the Night Belongs to Lovers, that Patti Smith, Bruce Springsteen song. Right. And so she sang it, and we're singing, and Emmylou's over there being the grand dame that she is. And afterwards, I was like, wow, pretty amazing, right, Chloe? She's like, yeah, cool. I'm like, what do you mean, yeah, cool? And so I'm like, okay, maybe she doesn't realize what just happened. So we get on the bus, and of course, every tour bus has a copy of The Last Waltz somewhere hidden behind. Yeah. And so I pull it out, and I pop it in, and we're cruising down the highway, wherever we were. And, we're watching the thing, and then there's that one scene when Emmylou sings Evangeline. But Emmylou's 23.
Yeah.
Long, straight brown hair. And so, the performance goes by. And like 2/3 of the way through, the closed captioning comes up and it says Emmylou Harris. And Chloe's watching, and all of a sudden she goes, and she looks at me, she's like, did we just? And I'm like, yeah, you did.
That's so cool.
You just played with her. And Chloe's like, her head exploded. She didn't even know until I had to like basically hold her hand and show her, because she had seen The Last Waltz a million times. Yeah. She's a hippie kid. She grew up, she had seen it. She just didn't piece it together. She didn't read the name, and it didn't mean anything to her. And all of a sudden she's like, wait a minute, what? Yeah.
Very, very cool.
Love it.
Wow, what a lucky upbringing.
Great experience.
Well, thank you so much for hanging out with us. We really appreciate you taking the time. And like I said, we can't wait to have you guys here at Beau's in a few days.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
If you're at the show, come up and say hi, introduce yourselves, and we'll have one of those band beers, whatever they're called.
Yeah, the gig beer.
Yeah,
gig beer.
For sure. All right, thanks so much.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Peace.
Bye, see you soon.
All right, I loved the threat of construction noise in the background, because for a minute, maybe not even a minute, for 30 seconds, it sounded like a Hans Zimmer soundtrack.
Well, I thought it was like a didgeridoo, or is that the didgeridoo, the big?
Well, yeah, sure.
Is that what I'm thinking of?
Maybe, yeah, I think it is.
That
I
big,
think it
long?
is.
Okay.
But it sounded like, have you seen The Lighthouse before?
No.
It sounded like The Lighthouse, where you just have a consistent revolving blare. But
it was so real. There was one different construction sound in the middle that I actually thought was coming from below us.
There was. We did have
our own
construction outside here at one point.
All right, okay.
Yeah. We should have asked if they could hear that.
Rude.
The perils of recording in the city. Well, that was fun. Whitehorse, Melissa, Luke.
Great.
Eat it up.
Great people. And
super nice.
I do like bands that kind of change course and direction and kind of keep you guessing.
Yeah.
And they're one of those bands for sure. And I could listen to that pretty much the entire discography, start to finish.
Yeah, the new singles are really cool.
New singles are great. And just that. I love that style of country. As we talked about, again, kind of like the Charlie Crockett and that retro kind of
real country western
kind of thing is coming back
and
is huge. And it's not on the radio. There was one, I listened to a new song last night that was all about tractors and the different types of tractors that there are.
Like a modern country
country
song. Inspiring stuff.
Yeah.
Inspiring stuff.
These guys have tapped into the good stuff.
The good stuff. Well,
Division
Peter,
number 5. We never got a chance to talk about Division number 5, which is that'll be one of my favorite tunes of the year.
Oh, really?
It's
wow.
Because again, the one thing with country music is like the storytelling is so phenomenal, and just the story of that song is about a guy whose lover has left him.
Yep.
And he goes to the cops to file a missing persons report on him.
One day we'll get the full story.
One day.
All right, who else are we hanging out with today?
We showed some love to Sawback Brewing Company, Beau's Bar and Stage, of course, where Whitehorse will be playing, and our good friends at Go Services, Inc.
Communal, Creative Studios, Ryan and Ryley, thank you so much. Producers extraordinaire. Go like CCS on social media and subscribe to the CCS YouTube channel if you can, please. Thank you so much. It's urgent.
And you will probably offer that plea again next
Wednesday.
The Road The Stage is produced by Ryan Kuly and Ryley Surian at the Communal Creative Studios in Red Deer, Alberta. In partnership with Go Services Inc., Sawback Brewing Co., Tourism Red Deer, and Beau's Bar and Stage.